OD consultant,
right,
but, or a change consultant, there are processes like if it's a limited company, they will have their board of directors ensuring this, what is the change that they want in HR policies. They'll have some apex council that takes such decisions. After those decisions are made, they have contacted you. That is how usually companies work. So going in, step in and telling कि आपकी apex council ने जो decide किया है वो गलत किया है, ऐसे हम चालू करेंगे तो yes they will tell that's not your role as a trainer. भाई तुम आए क्या हो, हमको ये नहीं चाहिए कि हमने decide किया है, हमारी apex council ने जो decide किया है वो सही है कि नहीं.
okay.
We cannot possibly take that stand because there are processes about policies, and that change में policy में change लाना है वो is already decided at an apex level.
Then, well, what you are saying may be right, but I will not take on such an assignment. I will take up an assignment only when I am convinced that my concept, and because I am giving reasons why this thought process is not right. So if somebody wants to take it up, who am I to say no? But I am not personally convinced that the trainer's role is only in communicating a right or a wrong decision. That's not my concept of a trainer. So, of course, I have nothing against anybody who picks that kind of thing.
Sir, it is not whether it is no right or wrong, but theoretically, when you are saying you are an OD consultant, and theoretically you are saying that this is change management.
No, but why? One minute. I do not see a difference between the two. For me, change management is the process which leads to OD. Where is the difference? I don't understand. If you want your organization to develop, that is why you are bringing in change. If I feel that this is not the right step to bring about the change, I should be able to express that. So, as an outsider, I am not part of the system that I have to follow the bosses. I am on equal footing with whoever, your VC or your CEO or whoever. I am an external person. I have been invited because of my competence. That's the way I look at it. And if that is not needed, then I would rather stay away. So my point is very simple, that in change management is the process. Why are you bringing in change? That is the fundamental question. Because you want to develop your organization. You want to take it in a particular manner, a particular direction. And that is why you want the change to happen. That is the way I feel. I mean, it's a personal thing. I have nothing against anybody who doesn't feel that way. But I am very, very, kind of hesitant, or rather, I would not take up an assignment where I am clearly seeing that a wrong decision has been taken, and I am forced to convince other people. Then I would have been part of the organization. I would be an outside expert.
So you are convinced that this is a decision that is taken by the top management, right, and that you are agreeing to it.
No, if that is so, then where is the problem? If they have
a decision is taken at a senior level, and now you have to help it go throughout the organization. We cannot go again when you are doing it like this.
If you are an internal person, I can understand. But as an external trainer, I will not accept this.
Arey, nahi, sir. Even as a trainer, if you are, even as a consultant, you are connecting with people, right, at levels. You will not be possibly arranging a town hall right in the first step.
Right.
You will first be talking to the management.
Right.
The management says that, okay, this is the change that we want. You may have done this process.
But if I am not convinced that they are doing the right thing, I will not take that.
You are convinced. I'm saying you are convinced. Management is also convinced you have taken a decision. But when you are going and implementing it in the organization, what is your first step then?
No, then there is no contradiction. Na? If the management has taken a decision and you are also in line in terms of thinking that this is the right way to go in this organization, no conflict arises. Then where is the problem? Then of course I will communicate it. I will try to convince people. I will sit down with them and show them how this decision will be beneficial to you and the organization. That alignment has to be brought in. Maybe they have invited me because I have a better communicating skill than the insider. Possible. So if I'm convinced, then I don't see any problem. But if I'm an outsider and I am not convinced, then I will not take on that effect. If I am a part of the system, then of course, under compulsion, I have to follow the guidelines that the top management has set. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I left a cushy corporate job and started my own thing. I want fundamentally my freedom of choice. So if I am convinced about you, I will go all along with you, no problem. But if I am not convinced, I beg to differ and move away. So that is what my personal view would be in this situation. But yes, as an internal, if your job is being an internal trainer on what has been decided, well, you go with the higher management that has been proposed and you convince people on that. So these are the two approaches that come to my mind. Nothing right or wrong about it. If you are a part of the system, till the day you are a part of a system, you can against the system. I totally agree. You would have heard, these political people, when they change parties, and some of the journals, they question them that, last week you were defending this step. They openly say, well, that was the party line and I was part of that party and I was defending them. Today I am, so as an independent trainer, I don't kind of see why I should give in to what they think is right when I'm not convinced. If I'm convinced, fine. So both paths are there. It is up to the person to decide which path one is going to take. Do we proceed? We agree to disagree, maybe. Doesn't matter.
Yes, sir, we can proceed.
Agreed.
Agreed, sir.
Agree. No, we can agree to disagree. Absolutely no problem there. Because
Yes,
each
that's
person
right.
must have the choice of deciding what suits him or her. So that part I totally agree. Okay. So this was the first step that we did. And then this is what we did next. Each competency, those 23 that were ultimately finalized in collaboration with all the HODs. So we defined that competency so that all 23 plus me and plus the CEO and GM should understand when a word is spoken, when you say guest relations, what are you meaning exactly by guest relations? Why is it important? So that it should not at a later date, somebody else who is implementing the system should also know why this was taken. Then performance levels 1 to 5. Each one is defined. For example, if you take leadership, level 5 leadership would be this person hardly ever needs much of 80% of the decisions are taken by him and they come out to be right. Maybe 4 when about 60% of his decisions he is able to do independently. So that way, and 1 would be needs consistent guidance, hardly able to take a good decision on his own, too dependent on bosses, etc., etc. So that is the performance level. Identifying positive and negative indicators. So the format will make it further clear. This is the format we use. So on top, what is the competency we are discussing on this sheet? What is the definition of that competency? Why is it important? And these boxes for levels, they will have the definition. So if on top the competency is leadership, what would be understood by level 1 leadership? So this typically saves us from the same kind of performance being assessed at different levels just because the boss is too lenient or too strict. So that is why these definitions are important. Now, mistakes can still happen, but it won't be that one boss will mark the same kind of leadership skill as level 1, and another will mark it 5. It could be 1 and 2, it could be 2 and 3. So there would be much less variation just because a boss is strict or a boss is lenient. That is why it is important to define. And this is what we want every boss to keep on screen when he is trying to or she is trying to fill up the level for a particular team.
So level actually here means the demonstrated competence and performance of that particular competence.
Performance more importantly, because yes, you see competence, a lot of people take it as, the inherent competence, the potential in a person. But potential need not be reflected always in the performance for a variety of reasons. So we stick
Absolutely.
to performance because we are talking of performance management system. So does he show level 1 performance? Does she show level 2 performance, level 3 performance? That is what was our intention.
And the justification of level 1, 2, 3 is based on the subjective assessment of the evaluator.
In a way, yes, as I said, but that is why we defined all these boxes. These are blanks here, but we defined what is level 1 performance. Hardly ever able to take independent decisions. That would be level 1 on the parameter of leadership for a particular person. And level 5 would be 80% of the decisions he or she is able to take independently and they turn out to be right. That would be the definition of level 5 as far as competency leadership is concerned.
So this each level, the performance indicators for each level have been clearly defined.
That's right. That's right. In the level 1 box, below level 1, it would be defined.
That if I am the boss and I have to assess you, then I know at level 1 you should have ticked A, B, C boxes. And level 2 you should have ticked D, E, F boxes. So as long as the person falls in those in that particular sphere, you grade him accordingly. That is the way.
A, B, C, and D, E, F. I did not understand.
For level 1, there are 3 things that you need to demonstrate.
Yes.
For level 2, in addition to these 3, you need to demonstrate another 3 more things.
No. So, absolutely. So it depends on the definition given in these boxes. Absolutely agree.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. And the warning signs and positive indicators are the subjective comments that, which may not be very strictly defined. For example, performance is fine, everything fine. But warning sign is that the juniors are always coming and complaining about him or her. So these could be standard warning signs that this guy is an autocratic leader. So he brushes aside any suggestion, anything. He performs fine, but that kind of a performance may not be sustainable because the juniors are getting upset about it. So are there any such warning signs? We also define the warning signs. That the example this, example this, example this, those are also written here. So that the boss who is assessing can see that ऐसा है तो नहीं इसमें, इस बंदे में ये गड़बड़ तो नहीं है, इस बंदे में वो गड़बड़ तो नहीं है. Because you see, the idea behind this is that the boss has his or her own area of performance to show, to give. तो उसके पास इतना टाइम नहीं होगा बैठ के वो सोचेंगे. अगर हम एक इंडिकेटिव लिस्ट दे देते हैं कि लीडरशिप में ये वार्निंग साइंस है, ऐसा कुछ है तो नहीं उसमें, और लीडरशिप में ये पॉजिटिव इंडिकेटर्स होती है that juniors are always, all praise for him, etc., etc.
So, sir, the level could be behavioral and also positional, isn't it? कि ये middle level management है, तो उससे ये expectation है. And when we are saying that okay, leadership or ownership at middle level, we mean about a person who is a leader of 5 people and a person who is a leader of 50 people, we will behave that person to expect that person to behave differently. So that
Yes.
level also will different and positional level will also be different, right?
That is taken care of in the weightage. I have not brought that in here. वो जो 1000 marks है, उसमें मैंने एक communication का example मेरे talk में भी दिया था. जो एक 5-star hotel आप imagine करो, आप जब walk in करते हो, तो जो आपके reception desk पे जो बंदा बैठा हुआ है, maybe a first level person, उसकी communication skill में maybe you have to give 400 marks out of 1000. Whereas उसी के लेवल का सेम सैलरी ड्राइंग जो किचन में कमी है, वही मैंने बोला ना, जो एक्चुअली खाना बना रहा है, उसको कम्युनिकेशन स्किल चाहिए क्या आपको 400? उसका कुकिंग स्किल शायद 600 का होना. तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली वेटेज का जो चार्ट है, वहां से ये निकले कि किस लेवल में और किस फंक्शन में लीडरशिप के लेवल 2 में आपको 80 मार्क्स भी मिल सकते हैं, लीडरशिप के लेवल 2 में आपको 10 मार्क भी मिल सकते हैं. दैट काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग इज क्रिएटेड व्हिच इज नोन टू द कंप्यूटर.
So what we are saying is that actually the way we are assessing a person is something like what is being done in sports as far as gymnastics and diving, two specific things are concerned.
Right.
The judge will give you marks based on exactly your performance.
Right.
But there is a degree of difficulty factor. Some skill may be rudimentary as far as the top management is concerned, but
Right.
maybe a critical skill for the employee who's on the front desk.
Right.
So for that same skill, the mid or the top level employee may get a 5, but the weightage of that 5 is hardly anything in the overall scheme of things as far as that particular level is concerned.
Absolutely.
Hierarchical level is concerned. So that particular thing gets a negligible weightage in the overall performance of that particular person.
Absolutely.
That is
So
how
in the same
you are
department,
correlating.
a sales executive, even getting level 5 in leadership in his role, may not have a very high weightage, but that is a very high weightage for the head of the department, the country head of marketing or sales or whatever. True, absolutely, you have got the point right.
Thanks.
Because you cannot keep on making the format very complicated. You, at the back end, the computer knows, because it has been programmed कि इस level का बंदा इस function में अगर है और इस level का assessment है, तो उसको इतने marks देंगे, which ultimately adds up to a total of 1000. That breakup will be different for each level. वो भी chart है इसमें, for each level and each function. That is the complication behind this system, to make it more easy to implement, because we didn't want to create too much pressure on bosses to keep thinking about this only. They have 15 other things to do. Yeah, so this chart is okay. So there will be, since we identified 23 competencies collectively, so this chart, there will be 23 such charts. Competency ABC could be guest relations, creativity, leadership, communication, whatever. Some of them will be knowledge based, some of them will be skill based, and some of them will be attitude based. So the thought processes are matching. In the old system, what kind of job descriptions are there for the different roles? Do they make sense? Or they need to be changed? So that the holder of that role is also clear that no, this is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do this. So you may have to redo some of the job descriptions. Arvind, how much time is left, boss?
Sir, it is only 2 minutes, but we may extend for some time to ensure that we can finish.
Okay, because there are, I think, 9 points, if I remember.
Right.
Okay, so for each role, you create 4 or 5 key result areas annually. Okay, now this key result area is a common term, which, as I was explaining in the talk, it could be where it is measurable. sales, for example, production, for example, it is a measurable thing. So it could be a key target area. Whereas in R&D and other such functions where end result is uncertain, you cannot stand on the this vaccine development for COVID. You can't stand on the head of a research lab with a gun and say, "Sham tak agar nahi nikala to tumhe hum goli maar denge." That won't work. So in those cases, you have to only keep a track of, is the person creating the right reports of the research, of the tests, experiments that are being conducted, etc., etc. And that is the performance indicator. And for functions like HR, for instance, now, and take hiring. Now, if there is no vacancy created, HR need not hire. But so therefore, you cannot give a target unless it is in that the management trainee level or whatever, kitne vacancy hai, hum har saal itne lenge. But if a vacancy happens, obviously HR is supposed to take action. So we can create key result areas in terms of, if a junior level vacancy happens, HR should be able to fill it up in 2 months' time. If a middle level happens, HR should be filling it up in 3 months' time. So those kind of targets can be given, which is neither, those kind of results could be expected. It is not a target because it is in unknown. And it is also not as hazy as R&D. So in those functions, you can have key result areas. This report should be produced by this date. This hiring should be done by this date. Those can be different. So that incorporated into the 4 or 5 key annual result areas. Then we have talked about performance indicators. Now we will also define that for this role, this is the key result area, and whether they are performing on those key result areas or not, what is the indicator. That ideally can be defined. That if they have achieved this, we will understand that they have achieved the result area or the target area. So that is, to the extent possible, specified. Then, of course, the evaluation report on each employee, which will take care of.
Sir, could you please go back to the last slides?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right. And please, this chart is for a particular individual. Please do not confuse it with the chart that I showed for a competency. That's a general chart for a particular competency. So those positive performance indicators are general. Whereas in point number 5 here, we are talking of a specific employee has been given 4 specific key result areas. And how do we assess? What is the assessment on those, whether he or she has achieved or not? So this is specific to the employee, each individual employee. This is filled in for each specific employee. But all this was made online. So least of, pen and paper usage. So the document is available on the online. The bosses can refer to it. The competencies are defined. They are available as charts. So any reference point they want, that is all available. And that is used for filling up the evaluation for each individual employee. Not much to be written. Now, this is what I was talking about. The competency, the 23 competencies, out of which 10 were attitudinal competencies. I purposely removed because this was a specific assignment. So whatever you have identified in the assignment you are doing, A could be communication skill, right? Though that is not attitude actually, communication is a skill obviously. So let us go to the skill part, same thing. So A could be communication skill. Now, at which level of management, what kind of communication skill would be needed, right? So now the complexity is, this will also be based on the kind of role. I just explained to you, communication skill has to be excellent even at the first level if you are in the front desk. But communication ability may not be needed that much for somebody at the back end, right? So a junior in the front office, and now this is one chart, and similarly there will be a corresponding chart, junior in which department. For each department there will be a chart like this, where this chart will have to be made for every single department separately. So this is just a sample chart. So at the junior level in front office, let's say, you may have 50 marks out of, let's say 500 marks out of 1000 only on communication. Presentability, politeness, this, that, whatever are the knowledge, skills, and attitude competencies you have identified. This is filled into this chart. For each department, a separate chart would be clear.
Sir, these competencies will be in numbers or like for junior and middle level, would it be descriptive or quantitative?
No, quantitative. Actual marks, because if you look at the next slide, you will come to know. You see at the end, what do you find? 1000. It is exactly like exam में आपका होता है 5 पेपर मिला के 1000 मार्क्स. तो 5 पेपर में जिसने साइंस स्पेशलाइज किया है उसका इन सब्जेक्ट्स में ज्यादा होगा, जिसने ह्यूमैनिटीज लिया है उसका इन सब्जेक्ट्स में ज्यादा होगा, उस तरह का प्योरली बाय मार्क्स, स्पेसिफिक मार्क्स. एंड ये मार्क्स आएगा कैसे? क्योंकि आपका जो कॉम्पिटेंसी जब आप असेस कर रहे हो, आपके पास तो 5 लेवल है, 1 2 3 4 5. So for a junior in the front office, since communication is very important, the weightage to that, even आपको 1 भी मिलता है, तो आपका weightage may vary from what a senior will get based on the same competence level. Yeah, somebody in the kitchen will get different, क्योंकि उसका weightage उस particular competency में ज्यादा नहीं या ज्यादा है. So ultimately it will add up to 1000 for everyone. Yeah, sorry.
So as we see, what we are going to fill here in say competency number 21, which is you.
Yeah.
This will be the person has got level 4 performance.
Right.
From the previous one. Now, for the junior level, this particular competency, that is the U competency, may be having a weightage of 1. And I'm just hypothetically speaking, it may be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
In that hierarchy. So, since this person, individual has got 4 level, 4 into 1 will come as 4 out here.
Correct.
And for a middle level manager, it will come 8 and 12 and 16 in that.
Absolutely.
And this complete total is going to work out to, in case everyone gets 5, that is the highest level competency, the highest level performance measure in each of the competencies, then the total of that should be coming up to 1000.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And in case as a junior I have got 700 score, it means I have got 70% in my overall performance level for that particular job.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. So it is very difficult to explain everything in one interaction because, as I said, this is a 1.5-year project it was. So there were multiple calculations, and ultimately it was settled like this. So I am just giving you the final product. It's not as easy as it sounds, but you have hit the nail on the head. Anybody who has got 5 in every single competence that he or she has been assessed for, that total should come up to 1,000. Absolutely. Yeah. Then, as I told you, calculated by the computer system based on the predetermined weightages. So this is where the confidentiality comes. Even the HODs, once we have decided, the HODs are not given that sheet because then they are in a position to manipulate. The computer only knows what weightage to be given. You only rates everybody on every competence 1 to 5 based on the definitions of those competences. I agree there could still be, as I was mentioning, there could still be mistakes, but the maximum will happen 1 का 2 मिल गया या 2 का 1 मिल गया. 1 का 5 मिल गया, 5 का 1 मिल गया, बहुत मुश्किल है in this kind of a system. And it keeps it simple. Every competence you have to define in terms of level 1 to level 5. So obviously, as you very rightly said, 1000 में से कितना percent मिला, that will indicate reward देना है, punishment देना है, क्या करना. And punishment is not necessarily, shunting out. It could be needing some kind of counseling, some guidance, coaching, whatever is. So the removing employees is not obviously the first choice decision. Okay, so that is, it was, I had a feeling there were 9 steps. Actually, there were 8.
Now, I have a doubt in this, or a
Please.
suggestion to make in this. Now, this complete performance management system is completely based on the demonstrated performance as far as that individual is concerned.
Right.
Each and every competency that he is supposed to possess has been quantified, has been given a weightage, so you get a weighted score, which should theoretically at least eliminate inconsistencies of the
Assessors.
evaluators or the assessors.
Right.
Now, due to certain reasons, which may be human, which could be anything, the person has not been able to adequately perform in that particular reporting period.
Right.
However, he has got great potential to be groomed for higher positions as he gains experience and little more
Right.
experience and little more knowledge,
Right.
and skills for the higher job. Where is that getting reflected? Because that is not getting reflected anywhere in the system.
Wonderful. Excellent question. Now, that is where I mentioned coaching. First of all, we have to, for example, his last 3 performance reports were excellent in the old performance management system. And suddenly this year, you find that he is not fitting. Definitely, you need to investigate. It could be a family problem. It could be a financial problem. It could be a health issue for he himself. Could be multiple reasons. So those exceptional cases where your previous records indicate that this assessment is not reflecting the real potential, as you rightly use the word potential of the person, then yes, we have to intervene at the individual level to assess what made this happen. And if it is found that a particular, you reach the root cause, as we call in management, what is the root cause of this deviation from the performance that he or she is expected to deliver but could not? So if we find genuineness in that, definitely a corrective action can be taken, and the what I call punishment here may even be stopped. That much of human sensitivity has to be there. I agree with you totally. There are multiple factors. For example, a salesperson has not been able to achieve his targets, let us say. Let's take one example, that 2 salespersons were given to sell 1200 computers for the year, A and B. You look at A's record, he has sold 1250. Obviously, exceeded performance. Everything looks hunky-dory. B, on the other hand, could sell only 1,000 computers. Obviously, at first glance, it looks that his performance is not good. But if a sensible boss will need to go into the detailing as to why this has happened, you might find that this man was only able to work for 9 months, and after that, the geographical area that he was assigned was under lockout because of floods or because of some riots or something which was completely beyond his control. So those kind of factors have to be looked at on an individual basis. Also, you may find that both of these guys had the power to give up to 10%, mark my words, up to 10% discount on the products they were selling. What you find is that guy who has sold 1250, virtually everywhere he has used that 10% discount thing. And this guy has rarely given a discount. That means he has put in effort to convince people to pay the full price. And for all you know, if you might find that by selling 1100 computers, he has actually earned more revenue for the company rather than the guy who has sold 1250. So those variations, definitely, any system, when you try to convert human performance into facts and figures, these aberrations will be thrown.
So
and the system has to be.
So isn't this all a part of analytics, and is that a part of PMS?
Ideally, it should be. Are we applying our mind to the real possibility and are sensitive to keep a track of this, that this person's past performance has been so good, how could he get so less? Are there any reasons beyond his or her control? Absolutely, it should be.
Okay, and sir, another question, like the performance system is usually for the past year. So it is announced beforehand, and the employees work the entire year thinking that this is how the company will be evaluating their performance, and this is how they are giving. For example, a promotion doesn't come every year. So employee thinks, okay, for 3 years, if I work in this manner, I'm likely to get the promotion in the 4th year. So when you are implementing a change in the PMS system accounting, the biggest concern for employees would be कि मैंने जितना काम किया था अभी उसको आप पूरा का पूरा नेगेट कर रहे हो और दूसरा सिस्टम ला रहे हो.
Right.
तो रेजिस्टेंस सबसे ज्यादा वहीं पे आता है. पूरा मतलब आप कहीं पे भी देखो वहां पे सबसे ज्यादा बवाल होता है. Right. So when we are planning a change, we first also have to look at what was and what will be the impact of the new change, and right, how do you manage that. So I think that is also very crucial part. हमने अपने 9 steps में ये point नहीं लिया है ना?
Correct. तो ये तो मैंने आपको system development दिखाया, which was at the level of the HOD. But इसके बाद, it was our recommendation that internally each HOD must sit with his or her juniors, explain to them that this is what is being done, but whatever doubts you have on this, they should be communicating with them to clarify their doubts. And if the genuine doubt is raised, it has to be brought back to the HOD's panel and sorted it out. So that is a precaution, yes. Even if, I would say, even if an unfounded what is it called, doubt is there in somebody's mind, that also has to be clarified. The management has to have the HR and the co-department, the particular department head, they as a team have to sit down with any employee. First of all, they should go and make a presentation to them to make them understand what are we planning. Then seek their point of view. Doubts are expressed, they have to be clarified. No doubt about that. Only then the system will work. So no one should have lingering doubts left in their mind.
So isn't, but sir, isn't this conflict and non-acceptance a major part of managing change?
Now that happens actually when we have not put in the effort properly. If you push through, even at the HOD's level, I could have easily, kind of said, oh, this is the system, this is this, cut paste kiya, kahin se chupka diya. That, then it definitely would happen. But if the employees are also observant that the management is answering each query that we have, each doubt that we have, if immediately it cannot be sorted out, they have to be answered later after a discussion at all the HOD levels. And HR has to play a very, very proactive role. Ki what all can be anticipated? What are the kind of, again, force field analysis fir aa jata hai. To implement any system, you have to see what could be the facilitating forces and what could be the restraining forces. And implement a system only when the facilitating forces are more than the restraining.
So as a trainer, we are not supposed to judge these and manage these forces.
No, see, the point is, what is the assignment given to the trainer? In this particular question, if it relates to the performance management system, it is the job of the trainer to understand that system and communicate rightly. Whereas if it is more to do with bringing in some kind of a leadership skill into the team, which is non-existent inside the company, then it is a different game altogether. You have developed an expertise because you have undergone a certification process, you can say, or whatever, or through your experience. And that particular thing is not there in the organization currently. You come in as an outside expert trainer to give them that input. For example, a new software has been developed. So the company has they only know that in our future, we would like to use this software. So this external trainer has nothing to do with the internal management as such in the training process. That training will focus on what the new software has come and how to go about. So it will depend, it will differ. The trainer's role also will differ from assignment to assignment. It will also differ depending on which level are you talking. If I am training the workers on total quality management and I am discussing total quality management at the board level, obviously the examples we take, the issues we take, the policies we are discussing will be completely different. So the trainer has to be flexibility, has to be an epitome of flexibility and would fit in depending on the assignment and how to convince people about it. If and for that is where, again, going back to the early question, the trainer has to be convinced about what he or she is doing. Otherwise, if that conviction is missing, it will never come out the way it would otherwise. You are always, more energetic in trying to convince people than you are yourself convinced. Otherwise, you will hear things like, "Kya kare, management bolti hai to karte hain, hum to jante hain." On the road, you talk to the police constables. "ये क्या नियम बनाया आपने ये? तब हम क्या करें? हम तो जो order मिलता है वो हमें पूरा."
So I think there are two very subtle differences in what we have done.
Yeah.
The example that you gave of the hotel chain in Nepal, where
Sorry, of which example?
Of the example that you gave of this performance management system and the video that we saw earlier,
yeah,
was when you were trying when you were putting into place a new performance management system for the organization.
Right.
So that's a different ball game. Now, as far as this particular question is concerned, this says that you have to sell the change that has been taken, that is coming up in the organization as far as the performance management is concerned. So your job is to primarily sell the change, make everyone who is to implement the system aware of what the changed system is, how the change system has got to be implemented by the people. That goes without saying that you would be able to do the job only when you are convinced about what is the change that has come into that is being put into place.
Right.
You are not actually implementing the system. Once you have conducted the training, telling the employees as well as the managers on what the change system is, what is the difference from the previous system, what are the advantages of this, and how it has got to be implemented. Thereafter, you have got a very peripheral role as far as implementing that system is concerned.
Fair enough. But
I understand this entire thing.
But while the training process is on, let me read the question once again. While the training process is on, okay, then where did the chats go? Where are the chat? So basically what I was trying to say is that if you are a trainer who has been in only the role of communicating to the people that this is the change which is being brought about, then why do you need a trainer? Then you just need a communicator. Anybody, that's not a training function. You are just communicating that this is what your management has done and this is what you should do. Now, if you are not convinced about the change yourself, when the people ask you questions and queries, how do you handle that? That is my point.
Your being convinced of the thing is an absolute essential. There's no dispute in that. We discussed that earlier.
Yeah.
You need to be convinced that the system, what is being put into place,
Right.
is correct one, and is the most apt for the thing. You need to, the buy-in that we are talking of, you need to be the first person who has to be bought into this system. That is why, that is how you will be able to convince others. That is besides the point. I am not saying that issue. You are convinced, but at this point in time, what you are doing is purely going by what the question says, that you are a trainer who is managing the change.
No, that is what I am saying.
You are not orchestrated the change.
No, the point is that is a trainer needed to just communicate the change that has happened? That part you have to,
because then you will not be, if you have orchestrated the change, then you are not a trainer. Then you are a OD consultant who has made an organization process change in the organization.
Right.
A process changes, then you are an OD consultant.
Right.
A trainer is only, an OD consultant has done something. A trainer is now educating everyone. OD consultant, like going back by the example that you gave in the previous session on Monday of the three friends. One is a innovative thinker. The
Right.
other has got technical skills to put it into a presentation. The third one is a communicator who's
Right.
communicating. They work,
Right.
all of them work as a team. So in this case, trainer and OD consultant are a team. OD consultant has done the dirty work of making the new system.
Right.
You have bought into that system. You know this is the correct system, and now you're communicating it to the people. So how?
That is fine. I am only questioning that can a person who is just communicating the top management decision or the OD consultant's decision down the line, can he really be termed as being a trainer? That is my question. A trainer is a person who brings some expertise into it and gives out something new.
Change and managing change, like you said, had mentioned earlier, there is resistance, there is acceptance, and then there is integration. Now, a manager or a departmental head would not be aware of these stages, would not be able to manage this. So as a
Right.
trainer, you are bringing that expertise of handling these emotions and these stages.
But then that would be more of counseling and this thing rather than a trainer. Where is the expertise that a trainer is bringing? I
Expertise-
would not term anybody a trainer unless he or she has a specific expertise which he or she is trying to share. Just communicating somebody else's decision, how does that make me a trainer? Probably the question itself is framed wrongly in that context.
Agreed. I also feel the same way. In case it is a question in the OD and change management,
Right?
just conveying the change is
Yes.
not an
And
issue. It is
that to a trainer,
orchestrating the change.
conveying the change is fine. Conveying the change is fine. But why do you need a? I mean, how is it in the role of a trainer to convey the change? It is something like Amitabh Bachchan being brought in to say polio ke liye do boond, because you are addressing a kind of audience, across the board, a huge population. Not many of them, have got the opportunity to develop their brain. So Amitabh Bachchan makes more sense to them than a medical doctor. That's a weird, but Amitabh Bachchan is not a trainer in that case. He is just a communicator. Because his communication will be received with more seriousness than a qualified medical doctor.
Sir, implementation itself is a expertise, isn't it? And
But
what you are
implementation कहाँ हो रहा है?
you are
यहाँ
bringing
तो trainer खाली
implementing things.
communicate
You are
कर
not
रहा है.
doing that.
So probably to my mind, the question then, I understand your interpretation, but then the question itself is wrong, because I cannot call somebody a trainer who is there only because he can speak well. वो उठा के उसको बोल.
Sir, implementation is not just speaking well, isn't it?
नहीं,
It's also-
implementation कहाँ कर रहा है? वही तो question है.
Sir,
और implementation आप कैसे करोगे जब आप खुद convinced नहीं है?
Sir, in organization, that's a very real fact that people who decide are not the people who implement. That's a given
तो यहाँ
organization.
तो बाहर का ट्रेनर ला रहे हैं ना वो, कि नहीं? That is why I wanted to read that. Can you please read the question again?
नहीं सर, वो तो रीड कर लिया मैंने पहले से रीड किया है, तभी मैं आपको पूछी थी कि आप जब प्रोसेस डेवलप करने की बात करते, मेरा डाउट ही पहले से वहीं पे से था कि आप डेवलप करने की बात कर रहे हैं प्रोसेस, और मुझे लग रहा है कि क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट इम्प्लीमेंटिंग चेंज.
Then, as far as this thing is concerned, then you don't need a trainer. Then you just need a communicator. Anybody who can speak well will do it.
You are dismissing implementation as a
And
communicator.
internally, and अगर वो internal employee है, I can understand your perspective कि
Not
उसको तो
at all.
job करनी है. So he has been told by his seniors to communicate a certain thing. He will, to the best of his ability, do that. But are we here talking of an external trainer or an internal employee of the organization?
Sir, the
Who is
implementation
acting the
function.
role of, who is in the role of a trainer, supposedly?
So the exact question is, describe the role you as a trainer, internal stroke external, will play to manage the change of performance management system in your stroke client organization.
To play a role, number one. Number two, internal and external, both they have asked.
Yeah, internal stroke external, you can take any.
So you can take any or you can take both.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. So
Sir, the confusion here is, I can see the confusion. Confusion is lot of people consider training as just sharing some sort of knowledge. As far as I see and I understand what a trainer is, let's say there is some problem in any organization and something needs to be developed, or there are some performance issues and people try to create some benchmarks outcome. So
right.
Organization only cares that their outcome is met. How that outcome is met, that is the role of a trainer. Basically, he will be the strategist, and he not only impart the training, rather he should also be able to create a strategy how to reach to that outcome, to reach the goal the organization has set. And
right.
If I am just as a trainer, I'm sharing some piece of knowledge, I'll not be actually a part of the whole development process of the organization. I don't even know that whatever I have imparted the knowledge, how many people have understood that properly. So I think if a person understands that only sharing knowledge and that is the role of a trainer, it is only like, you know, a partial role of a trainer. That is not a complete trainer. A complete trainer has to have like all the roles of a strategist, of a decision maker, of a person who can motivate, of a person who can convince, of a person who can mentor. So he has to have a lot of abilities, and then only he can be called a trainer. Otherwise,
Yes.
he cannot be called
And
a
has
trainer.
to bring in a body of knowledge, some expertise. Only then I would like to call him or her a trainer.
And
Sir,
trainer has to be the process
let us
expert.
go back to the question. The question is asking you to manage change. Okay. Also, just because you are telling how to implement doesn't mean that you are not strategizing. How implementation also requires strategy. So it is not as if all these things that you are qualifying as required by the trainer doesn't require implementation of change, doesn't require all those things. And implementation isn't just communicating the decision. Then the only
There I
two,
agree with you totally.
sir, only CEOs in ultimate decision makers are only the CEOs in an organization. So that would imply that only two people are working, all the others are just communicating the decisions in an organization. That can be logical, right?
No, not really, because at each
You
level,
are ऊपर वाले डिसाइड कर रहे हैं और आप तो सिर्फ इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं, तो आप अपना एक्सपर्टीज कहाँ ला रहे हो? तो ऐसा नहीं है ना कि आप डिसीजन का पार्ट नहीं है तो और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में आप अपनी स्ट्रेटेजी नहीं ला सकते, आप अपना बॉडी ऑफ नॉलेज नहीं ला सकते. ये तो कहाँ का लॉजिक?
अगर आप कन्विंस्ड हैं उस डिसीजन से और आपके पास एक्सपर्टीज है उस चीज को समझने की, देन इट इज फाइन. आई एम सेइंग हाउ कैन यू बी अ ट्रेनर व्हेन यू आर योरसेल्फ नॉट कन्विंस्ड अबाउट द डिसीजन? आप तो खाली नौकरी कर रहे हो कि जो बोल दिया बॉस ने वो आगे चला दिया, मुझे लॉजिक नहीं समझ आया कुछ, देन इट्स नॉट अ ट्रेनिंग रोल. दैट इज द पॉइंट आई एम क्वेश्चन.
नहीं, आप बोल रहे कि सिर्फ ऊपर ने डिसाइड किया और नीचे आप कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं, तो वो कम्युनिकेशन ही हुआ, उसमें इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कहाँ हुआ? डिसीजन तो बहुत बार ये होता है कि सर ऊपर वाले ले लेते हैं, आप उसको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में हेल्प करते हैं. So as a trainer, it may be that is a given for you. For example, when you are going in training, the TNA is a given thing for you. ऐसा नहीं है कि HR डिपार्टमेंट आपके साथ बैठ के TNA डेवलप करता है. For you, the TNA is given, and from there on, your expertise is required. So we cannot say that just because we are not part of what is the change, we cannot manage change. Is it correct to say that? That is my doubt.
नहीं, मैंने ये कब कहा? You are misunderstanding me, boss. मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, मैं उसको ट्रेनर नहीं कहूँगा. ट्रेनर वो तब होगा जब उसके पास एक अलग एक्सपर्टीज है और वो उस एक्सपर्टीज को प्रोग्राम में ला रहा है. Then only I will consider it as a trainer. Otherwise, he may be a trainer in 1500 good things, but in this case, he is just or she is just a communicator. That's all I'm saying. If he has not been part of the decision-making process, if he is not convinced about it, if he has been just involved, just being called to communicate, then of course he is not a trainer for me. He is just a communicator.
Sir, I'll just
the trainer role नहीं हो रहा है. ऐसा मेरा अपना मानना है.
Sir,
I'm not saying that is the right view or wrong view.
Sir,
I'm only expressing my view.
So my understanding is whenever an organization considers that there is a need of training, it means that the people inside the organization, they may not be able to get things done according to the required state. Like let's say there is some sort of goal which has to be achieved in a given period of time. They think that maybe a trainer's intervention, internal or external, is definitely required to meet that goal. Now, if the trainer comes into picture, he will have his own process. The organization is only concerned of that they have to reach the goal. How that goal has to be reached. If that decision has already been taken, I think if a person comes and just implements that, he will not be a trainer. It is the role of the trainer to decide the process that will be taken in order to reach that goal. I mean, that's the expertise. If that trainer doesn't bring in that expertise or that doesn't shows that expertise in this process, for this specific training, he will not be a trainer. This is what you were saying, and this is what I understood.
Yes, I am only saying that each one of us play multiple roles.
Right, sir. I completely agree, sir, that a
if
trainer
I really
has...
work on trainer, I am a plain communicator. I am not saying that role is not there. I am saying, मेरे व्यू में ट्रेनर हम तभी कह सकते हैं जब वो कुछ अपना एक्सपर्टीज ला रहा है, कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन है उसका in pushing a particular idea, in convincing people about it, in showing them the benefits of that idea, and all this after the person is convinced about the whole. If it is not, then he or she is not playing the role of a trainer, but playing. Oh, Amitabh Bachchan is not a polio expert. He is only playing the role of a communicator. But the end result is that more people listen to him. So you are pandering to that taste. So that is what is my only thing. So a trainer can play the role of a communicator, pure communicator. But in that situation, he's not a trainer as far as I am concerned.
Right, sir. Right. I completely agree.
That is all I am saying. That is the only point where we differ. I am not saying the trainer cannot be a communicator, but he is not playing the role of a trainer. तो आपके क्वेश्चन में ही आपको मेरे को लगता है दोनों तीनों चीजों को अलग अलग करके देखिए, इंटरनल ट्रेनर एक्सटर्नल भी दिया है उन्होंने, राइट? तो उसमें आप दोनों को डिफरेंशिएट करके कि आप एक्सपर्टीज बाहर से किस लिए ला रहे हैं कम्युनिकेट करने, सिर्फ कम्युनिकेशन चाहिए तो ट्रेनर नहीं चाहिए, और या ट्रेनिंग वाली जो उसकी कैपेबिलिटी है उसको आप यूज नहीं करना चाहते, फिर है ना?
नहीं, इनफैक्ट विनीता ने भी जैसे बोला कि डिसीजन पहले से ही ले लिया गया है, and the only thing was कि उस डिसीजन को कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट कराना है. यूजुअली अ ट्रेनर, डेफिनेटली अ गुड ट्रेनर विल नॉट इन्वॉल्व हिमसेल्फ फॉर दिस. जब भी अगर कोई ट्रेनर अगर इन्वॉल्व करेगा अपने आप को फॉर एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ इंटरवेंशन, he has to understand what he is going to talk about. It is just like if I am selling an idea and I am not convinced, am I doing good or am I doing wrong? This is, I think, a person who is not convinced with any idea, and if all the decisions have already been taken, so he is not actually a trainer, because he will not use his expertise of process or understanding to drill down the change and pass it on to the learners.
Right. So I have no problem with that. I am only saying, in my view, he or she is not a trainer. That's all I am saying.
Right.
There are no rights and wrongs in such situation.
तो सर ये क्वेश्चन में भी जो हमारा है असाइनमेंट में, माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज इवन दो इफ यू आर इंटरनल ट्रेनर, व्हाट विनीता वाज सेइंग इज आल्सो फ्रॉम द प्रैक्टिकल पर्सपेक्टिव. वो भी सही बोल रही है कि बहुत बार क्या होता है कि डिसीजन टॉप मैनेजमेंट ले लेता है और ट्रेनर का रोल बड़ा स्क्वीज्ड होता है वहां पे. यू डोंट एक्चुअली, आई मीन, यू डू नॉट हैव दैट स्पेस टू यूज लॉट ऑफ ब्रेन्स. वो अदरवाइज दे माइट एक्चुअली थिंक कि दे विल हैव ऑप्शंस एंड दे मे नॉट यूज you for any other training purposes. It can actually happen with any trainer, internal or external. बहुत सारे लोगों को अब काम नहीं है तो वो ये सोचेंगे कि they just want to make everyone happy so that they keep on getting assignments. But right trainer will try to make everyone happy, but at the same time he also want to do things which are right. It is very similar to like a trainer is like a doctor. If you come to me and I am a doctor, you don't tell me that what disease you are having. You just tell me the symptoms, and I'll, as a doctor, decide what medical interventions are needed, what medicines I should give you. If you on your own have decided that this is the medicine has to be given and you just write and sign off, then I'm not a doctor.
Correct. Similarly, and I am not saying कि वो trainer कर नहीं सकता. I am saying when he is not playing the role where an expertise is being brought in, then the role of the trainer is not being played. It is just plain simple role of a communicator that is being played.
Any other questions anyone has? We already have covered more than 42 minutes according to the schedule time.
Arey baba, acha.
It's like 8:12. I know it might
be interesting discussion.
Right. So any last question anyone has before we end the session for today?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You are all very, very welcome all the time. Absolutely. Great discussion today.
Yeah, it was really a great discussion.
Thank you, Vinita.
Thank you, Vinita, Anupam, everyone else.
Thank you,
to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Stay safe.
And best of luck for the assignments. Complete it fast and submit it within time.